I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, on deck now, new plans for $1 billion stadium in San Diego. The next challenge, how to pay for it all.
Go Global is the name of a new initiative to increase San Diego's exports and foreign investments. I'm Peggy Pico with how the shift could impact local jobs and the economy. Then, the newly appointed general director to the San Diego Opera joins us for his plans for more alternative productions and how that could increase audiences.
But, we're in San Diego. We have the concept of the splash zone down. So the audience will be in the Berlioz splash zone.
Taking center stage, 4 brass bands and hundreds of players, the epic show by the La Jolla Symphony and Chorus that may rival a heavy metal concert. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Hi, good evening. Thanks for joining us. The race is on to keep the Chargers in San Diego. The Stadium Task Force made it official today, selecting Mission Valley as the site of a new stadium. The task force kicked into high gear, of course, after the Chargers and Oakland Raiders announced plans recently to team up for a new stadium in Carson, just outside of Los Angeles. KPBS Metro reporter Taryn Minto says everyone celebrated at the official announcement today, but one key party was noticeably absent.
The task force has officially spoken.
The only site to be considered is right here in Mission Valley, the home of a National Football League franchise and hundreds of other events for the past 50 years.
Chairman Adam Day formally announced the Citizen Stadium Advisory Group picked the city-owned 166-acre site to build a multi-purpose Bolts Stadium. Day says it's cheaper than downtown because that site is currently occupied by the Metropolitan Transit System.
The cost of purchasing the MTS property alone, the cost to pay to relocate them, the cost to buy other additional lands through eminent domain, the cost for a roof on a downtown stadium, all add up to well over $250 million.
Fan Johnny Abundez was behind the choice, even if it means losing the vast tailgating space around Qualcomm Stadium to future development.
Hey, we'll back it up 110%. It's San Diego, or it's goodbye. We'll keep Mission Valley. It's worked in the past. Why wouldn't it work now?
Rob Hutzel from the San Diego River Park Foundation says the development could be more than just stores and residences.
Imagine one day with parks and trails and open spaces along here to serve a community that is well deficient in parkland.
One important partner not celebrating at the event was the Chargers. The team's special counsel, Mark Fabiani, has made it clear in the past the team prefers to be downtown. In an email today, Fabiani told KPBS, "We will evaluate whatever proposal the task force comes up with. But the team is keeping its options open." The Chargers launched a signature gathering drive today to expedite its proposal for a joint stadium with the Raiders in Carson. Day says he hasn't spoken with Fabiani since the task force's decision became public Wednesday, but considers him a willing partner.
He's been a very cooperative partner so far. He's shared lots of documents. We've appreciated the meetings with him, and we take them at their word.
The next step for the task force is to provide a funding plan around mid-May. The group will meet next month in San Diego with NFL executives to talk about how the league could help pay for the new facility. Taryn Minto, KPBS News.
New evidence of political blowback if Republicans attempt to block President Obama's immigration reform measures. A new USC report shows more than 5 million citizens have at least one parent who would be able to work and be eligible for a temporary stay of deportation. The report also found more than 500,000 of them currently have the right to vote. The authors say this may be a sign that voters would not back efforts to reverse the program. Last month, a federal judge delayed the President's Deferred Action for Parents of Americans program, or DAPA, as more than 24 states sued to stop its rollout. Today, Justice Department attorneys filed an emergency motion to lift the injunction. Pack your patience at the DMV. More folks are complaining about wait times, and many are blaming a new state law on driver's licenses for immigrants. It allows those living in the country illegally to apply for driver's licenses. The average wait time for walk-in appointments at DMV is 60 minutes, and appointments are backed up for months. DMV hired nearly 1,000 new employees and extended hours. They expect to process more than 1 million applications over the next 3 years. The State Board of Education is giving teachers and students more time to adjust to new tests aligned with the Common Core standards. Board members voted to skip producing an academic performance index for this school year. It uses student results on statewide tests to rank schools and to identify those that need improvement. University of California President Janet Napolitano is in San Diego to see how the community of Mountain View is using a garden to feed the people and clean the soil. KPBS's Matt Bowler joins us from the Ocean View Growing Grounds.
This 20,000 square foot lot at one time lead and arsenic in the soil, and now not only is it a community garden, but it's a place for community members to come together. UC President Janet Napolitano says making gardens like this are a lot more complicated than they seem at first blush.
And then, people may say, it's easy, you just go out and plant some stuff. It's a lot more involved than that, particularly if you want it to be something that the community needs, that the community ultimately operates, and that is producing really nutritious, healthy food for people.
UCSD's Keith Pizzoli says gardens like these can actually clean the soil.
Food is a really interesting challenge because it brings so many things together. People need to be eating healthy. But when the people are growing food on land that might be contaminated, they really don't have a lot of science to help them understand, am I getting exposed to lead? Is there something in my food that's dangerous? So we are bringing the university science into that equation and helping people feel safe about growing food on land like this.
Researchers say there are 800 more vacant lots like these throughout San Diego that could be turned into community gardens. Matt Bowler, KPBS News.
And coming up tomorrow on Evening Edition, Peggy Pico will have an in-depth conversation with Napolitano. A judge has denied a legal challenge to San Diego's medical marijuana ordinance. The plaintiffs argued patients would be forced to drive long distances because the city limits dispensaries to only commercial and industrial areas, adding to traffic congestion and air pollution. But the judge said there was no evidence to base the claim on. The zoning regulations just went into effect last year, and the city's first legal dispensary in Otay Mesa hasn't opened yet. Late-night snacking could be taking a toll on your heart. KPBS science reporter David Wagner says a new study shows that's true even when keeping daily calories down. He joins us from the newsroom. What else can you tell us, David, about this study?
Sure. So it was published today in the journal Science, and San Diego researchers were studying two groups of fruit flies. They gave one group of flies access to food 24/7. They could eat whenever they wanted. The other group was only allowed 12 hours out of the day for eating. They couldn't eat at night. And the interesting thing is both groups ate about the same number of calories, and all the flies got about the same amount of exercise. But what the researchers saw is that the flies that ate at night developed heart problems not seen in those that ate only during the day.
So what does this mean for our late-night snacking?
I put that question to San Diego State biology professor Girish Melkani. He's one of the senior authors on this study. And he said that the paper does suggest that saving nighttime for rest instead of snacking could be a heart-healthy choice. Here's how he summed up the findings.
What time we eat is as important as what we eat.
Now, he says more research needs to be done, but he does believe this could help explain why people who work odd hours and eat late at night often have more health problems, even if they're watching their calories and getting exercise.
KPBS science reporter David Wagner. There's a new effort to expand San Diego's global footprint. The goal is to increase our exports and foreign investments. Peggy Pico explains how it could impact our economy as well as jobs here.
The Go Global San Diego initiative is sponsored by the think tank Brookings Institution and financial firm J.P. Morgan Chase. Here with the details are my guests, Brookings Vice President Bruce Katz and Sean Barr, Vice President of the San Diego Regional Economic Development Corporation. And Bruce, specifically, what What exports and foreign investments would businesses in San Diego be involved in under this initiative?
Well, all metropolitan areas have distinctive advantages in the global economy. You sit on a border with our second largest trading partner. You excel in life sciences, health information technology, telecommunications because of Qualcomm. So those are the kind of products and services you export abroad, obviously to Mexico and Canada, but then much further to the rest of the world.
And Sean, can you give us some examples of how San Diego businesses specifically would benefit from this sort of global competition?
Absolutely. Well, Peggy, it's ultimately about competitiveness. So the competitiveness of our region and the competitiveness of our companies and our firms here that employ hundreds of thousands of San Diegans. In fact, exports and foreign investment essentially account for 110,000 jobs here in our community, nearly over 8% of our total employment base, who pay fundamentally higher wages than those that do not export or are not engaged in the globe in a way that some of our domestic firms, more inward-looking firms are.
Sure. So, Bruce, let me drill down a little bit on this about the jobs, because some people are concerned that when you start talking exports and exporting manufacturing and businesses, you're going to lose jobs here, and you're certainly going to dilute the money pool here. That money is going to be spent in other countries. How do you address those concerns?
Well, the foundation of cities is trade. When you're a competitive city, you're making products and providing services that the rest of the world wants. And frankly, as Sean was saying, it's a prerequisite for broad-based prosperity because exporting companies and companies owned by foreign companies pay a wage premium because ultimately they have those quality products. We are seeing after the recession, America having a reshoring of advanced manufacturing and really beginning to engage the world in much more dramatic ways. This is good for job creation in this region.
In this region. So just to clarify, it's not like you're saying these companies are going to go to Mexico or Canada and build industries. Is that correct?
Well, they may actually grow into Canada and Mexico as our two largest trading partners, Canada 1, Mexico number 2. Of course, here in San Diego, we understand that binational aspect to the NAFTA footprint more than any region, frankly, in North America. We are a case study for the world in the binational innovation economy, where one has a research and development facility here in San Diego, has their North American headquarters, if not their global headquarters here, and can manufacture and take advantage of everything that Tijuana and Northern Baja have in terms of assets, and that makes a globally competitive region that is distinct from any other.
So good arguments for global competition, but let me start with you, Bruce. What are some of the major challenges to this?
Major challenges tend to be around skills. You're talking about companies that need workers with science, technology, engineering, math skills. So
in this country?
In this country and in this region. So a lot of emphasis has to be put on your community colleges and even your high schools working closely with your companies and your exporting clusters so they get a feeder system of workers with the right skills for those areas.
Let me have Sean jump in on that as well. Are there specific challenges for businesses here?
Oh, absolutely. In terms of, we've surveyed over 400 businesses here in our community as part of this effort. And what we've seen are two things. One, companies don't have the information that they need to access those markets. And two, they don't know who to talk to. There are incredible resources here in our community with great information about how to, in fact, go global. So for companies who are trying to take that next step, to really take on a market where we see 85% of the world's growth is going to happen outside of this country in the next 4 years. They need access to information and they need to know who to talk to. It is ultimately and fundamentally about who you know and what your network is. That makes you competitive.
Right, and we'll have to end on that, Bruce, with this. So how do you do that? How do you get this up and running? What is the next step forward?
Oh, I think the next step forward is for a group of institutions and leaders to collaborate to compete and make global trade a key hallmark of your economic development strategy. And I think that's what EDC is doing with the mayor, with the county leaders, and with many of your other major companies that are already based in this region.
All right, I want to let folks know they can read the Go Global Initiative in full on our webpage, kpbs.org. Bruce and Sean, thank you so much.
Great to be here today. Thank you.
6 cities, including one in California, have been chosen for a federal pilot program to help improve community relations with law enforcement. It comes on the heels of protests around the country and a scathing federal report about Ferguson's criminal justice system. Researchers will conduct interviews and develop strategies for building trust and breaking down racial barriers between communities and police officers. Stockton is one of 6 cities chosen for the pilot program. There's a smart TV backlash in Sacramento. Some lawmakers want to ban the sale of the high-tech devices that can record customers' conversations at home. Consumer watchdogs are sounding the alarm because the devices could also transmit those recordings without the user's knowledge.
I'm okay with advertisers knowing which websites I visit and taking that data to perhaps target me with ads. And I'm okay with certain other targeted advertisement. But I think when a television starts recording the conversations that families are having in private homes, that's where we need to draw the line. That is something that probably should not be allowed in the state of California.
Okay. Companies who use voice recognition software say the recordings help improve voice commands, but privacy advocates say consumers have a right to know that their conversations could be recorded even when they're not using voice command functions. The La Jolla Symphony and Chorus is doing something few orchestras are willing to try. They will perform Hector Berlerot's Requiem. It's a piece from the 19th century rarely performed because it requires such a huge ensemble. How huge? KPBS culture reporter Angela Carone went to a recent rehearsal to find out.
When we arrived at Mandeville Auditorium on the campus of UC San Diego, a few musicians were already there tuning their instruments. Soon more arrived, and then they kept coming. In no time, the stage was packed with hundreds of people. They're here to rehearse Berlioz's Requiem. Stephen Schick is the symphony's music director.
To describe the Berlioz Requiem in general means to talk about one of the biggest, grandest pieces ever written for orchestra and chorus.
The piece calls for the largest ensemble the symphony has ever worked with. How large?
Well, 1 of every 3 people in the auditorium will be a performer. So when you have a room like that and 1/3 of the people there are actually making sound, it's an extraordinary feeling. We'll have a dozen timpani. We'll have 4 brass bands. We'll have our normal chorus, which is 120 voices. We'll add 70 to 80 members of the San Diego Gay Men's Chorus. We'll have a full orchestra, including 8 horns and the complete component of as many string players as we have and everything. And we'll put them all together with a tenor solo and then me sitting in a sort of quadrant, cordoned off in a box in the front conducting it.
Usually there is 1 tuba in an orchestra, not for this piece.
This piece has 4 extra brass bands. There's 2 of them that have 2 tubas, so there's 4 tubas altogether in this piece.
The 4 brass bands will perform from the sides of the theater, surrounding the audience.
So the audience at some point will literally be in the middle, but we're in San Diego. We have the concept of the splash zone down. So the audience will be in the Berlioz splash zone.
As the symphony's principal percussionist, Fiona Digney says there are times when the timpanists are encouraged to play as loudly as they can.
Yeah, I think it'll be the loudest acoustic sound that this hall has ever seen. So, and I actually forgot my earplugs. I should go and get those.
David Chase is the group's choral director. When he and Schick started talking about doing the Berlioz Requiem, he wasn't convinced they should take it on.
I talked him off the ledge for a while, and then we went ahead and jumped, and it's been great.
Chase says composer Hector Berlioz was a dramatic figure.
He's that wild romanticist who thought very highly of himself, who put all of his emotion in everything that he did.
The Requiem is the Mass for the Dead in the Catholic Church, but Chase says the performance is not a religious experience. In fact, Steve Schick says it's more like heavy metal music.
Because every single moment in this piece is poised to lead you to a powerful statement. You know, it's basically just power chords and decibels.
Though Schick is quick to point out there are plenty of quiet moments in the piece as well.
For the big moments to work, there have to be lots of small moments. So I really don't want to leave you with the idea that this piece is nothing but bombast from the beginning to the end. In fact, really the reverse is true. There are many, many sweet moments, and most of the piece, honestly, is quiet. And what that does is, in essence, to take, as in an archer's bow, it pulls back so that you are accustomed to softer music, and you are then pulled back so that when the loud music comes, it makes an enormous impact.
The La Jolla Symphony and Chorus will perform Berlioz's Requiem this weekend at Mandeville Auditorium on the campus of UC San Diego. Angela Carone, KPBS News.
Video journalist Nick McVicker helped produce that story. From the symphony to San Diego Opera, they've named David Bennett as their new general director. He joins Peggy Pico and the opera's board president to talk about their vision for the future.
My guest, San Diego Opera's newly appointed general director, David Bennett, is the former director of the Gotham Chamber Opera in New York City, renowned for productions like this one from Puss in Boots. Also joining us is Carol Lazier, president of the San Diego Opera Board of Directors. Welcome to Evening Edition.
Thank you very much.
Now, David, former San Diego Opera director Ian Campbell was adamant that local audiences wanted a grand opera-style production. Your reputation, of course, is for alternative opera-styled productions. How do you change San Diegans' appetite for grand style to maybe something more diverse?
I think we add to it, actually, because I think grand opera will always be a part of what San Diego Opera presents. But I think investigating what are the other kinds of opera that could be specifically relevant to this community is what's exciting. And that could be chamber opera, it could be concert opera. There's a lot of different possibilities.
Okay, and Carol, is the board of directors selection of David here, is it some kind of signal in a way that, you know, you're willing to change the way you see opera and how they serve San Diego?
Absolutely. We're ready for a change. We still need grand opera. We have a large segment of the population that loves it. I'm one of them, but we also need to move on to new and different, exciting formats for opera and to engage more people and bring more people into the art form.
Right, you're preparing audiences then here.
We're
in for a little change here. How do you think they'll respond to David's style?
I think they're going to love it. I think they're going to love it. He does really interesting and innovative things, and the other thing, he's very much a collaborator with other institutions, which I think San Diego's ripe for.
Now, David, it's been said that San Diego's opera audience is aging. Could it be as simple as performing these operas in innovative ways to bring in new and younger audiences, or is there something more?
Well, the opera audience has been aging for decades. I mean, it's the same experience. People have been talking about the graying of the audiences. So I think that, you know, it's something we need to pay attention to, but I think that engaging new audiences in places that are sort of unexpected is a great opportunity for this company.
And do we know, I guess I should say we do know that the opera's donor base and audience is actually shrinking. Do you have a financial sustainability plan for the opera here in the near future?
You know, we're working for that and trying to see what we can do probably for a 5-year plan to make sure that we're moving towards sustainability. I think we have a budget that's has been passed for the next season that is a balanced budget. But, you know, one of the things that we can look at is when you start producing opera in different ways. So you have many modes of presentation. You have the ability to attract a different kinds of donors and additional donors, I think. So sort of an expanded portfolio of opportunities for support.
And Carol, is the board of directors also looking for innovative ways to not only work with David, but sort of these outside sources that you sort of touched on?
Absolutely.
And how are you doing that? Are we looking at education, or has that been defined yet?
It's not been defined yet. We're working on that. We're doing our strategic planning and so forth. So that will materialize as
right.
time
Is
goes
there
on.
anything you can tell us about the next upcoming production that wouldn't give too much away?
Nixon in China?
Yeah.
It's fabulous.
Okay, that's not giving too much away.
It's John Adams. You know, people worry about contemporary opera being, you know, horrible atonal music. This is not it at all. It's beautiful. It's wonderful music. It's got comedy. It's got dancing. I mean, it's got the whole shebang.
And it's visually stunning. It's a beautiful production, and it's, you know, it's a moment in our lives that we know that's been transformed into opera. So it's really worth seeing.
And it opens this Saturday.
Yes, it does.
All right. Welcome, David Bennett. Thank you
you.
for joining us. And Carol, thank you so much for being here.
You're so welcome.
Thanks very much.
I'm Gwen Eiffel. On the next News Hour, we head to Israel for an election preview. Can Netanyahu hold on? That's Thursday on the PBS News Hour.
A Hollywood star with San Diego connections will screen a classic sci-fi film at UC San Diego. Richard Dreyfuss will also chat with fans before the film, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. The Steven Spielberg movie is part of a new film series. It's on April Fool's Day, and the event is free to the public. Of course, you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.